did start falling, and I think we've been letting that dictate how well we play defense too much, which is disappointing for us as a group. You know, we got to be able to defend all the time. So I think that's our biggest area of growth is
Caitlin Clark delivered another superstar performance last night, dropping 32 points, 7 threes, and 8 assists, but the Indiana Fever still walked away with a loss. And this wasn't just because the Washington Mystics played better basketball. This loss came down to coaching mistakes, roster problems, and a team that completely fell apart defensively when it mattered most. Clark did everything possible to carry Indiana to a win, forced overtime almost by herself, and still ended up on the wrong side of the scoreboard. The game actually started perfectly for Indiana. The Fever came out aggressive, moving the ball beautifully, knocking down shots and pushing the pace. Clark was hitting deep threes early, every starter contributed, and Indiana quickly built a 13-point lead. Washington looked uncomfortable, and for a moment it felt like the Fever were finally playing the exact style of basketball this roster was built for. The crowd was alive, Clark was in rhythm, and Indiana had complete control of the game. Then the second quarter happened, and everything collapsed. Washington exploded on a 25-7 run that completely flipped the game. It wasn't because the Mystics suddenly became an unstoppable shooting team from outside. They attacked the paint over and over again, drew fouls, slowed the game down, and exposed Indiana's biggest weakness: their lack of front court depth. The Fever's defense completely broke apart once Washington started targeting the interior. Shakira Austin and Kiki Iriafen were catching the ball deep in the post almost every possession, and Indiana simply had no answer. Aaliyah Boston is one of the best two-way players in the WNBA, but she can't do everything alone. The drop-off behind her on this roster is massive, and the moment the second unit stepped on the floor, the paint opened up like a highway for Washington. Stephanie White kept rotating. G lineups that looked decent on paper, but physically they could not stop what the Mystics were doing inside. Even while the defense was collapsing, Caitlin Clark kept fighting offensively. She continued creating shots, knocking down contested threes, and trying to keep Indiana alive. But every big shot Indiana made felt pointless because Washington was getting easy baskets at the rim on the other end. The Fever scored over 100 points and still lost, and that tells you exactly where this game was decided: defense and rebounding. Things got even worse when Aaliyah Boston left the game with a lower leg injury. At that moment, Indiana's entire defensive structure disappeared. Boston is the one player on this team who can protect the rim, rebound consistently, and defend physical post players without help. Once she went out, Washington attacked the paint even harder. Indiana finished the game getting outscored 58-28 in the paint and out-rebounded 44-29. That's not bad luck. That's a roster construction problem. The front office deserves serious criticism for this. Everyone could see during the offseason that Indiana needed another real rim protector behind Boston, but they ignored it. So when Boston got hurt or rested, Stephanie White was forced to choose between smaller lineups that couldn't defend the post or bigger lineups that couldn't move laterally. Neither option worked because the roster simply wasn't built to survive against a physical team like Washington. Then came the fourth quarter, and Caitlin Clark completely took over the game. Indiana looked dead, Washington had control, and then Clark started hitting impossible shots. Logo threes, contested pull-ups, transition buckets. She single-handedly dragged the Fever back into the game. The crowd exploded, the momentum shifted, and it felt like Clark was about to steal the win herself. And right in the middle of that run, Stephanie White pulled her out of the game.
Resilience, in that rally. We showed the ability to make tough shots. We had some really good time and score execution moments, offensively and defensively, in those moments. We just have to have more of it consistently.
Not because of foul trouble, not because Clark looked tired. It was simply a rotation decision, and the offense instantly died the moment she sat down. This has become a pattern with White. Taking Clark out during momentum stretches to stick with predetermined rotations instead of riding the hot hand. Every time it happens, Indiana loses rhythm and has to fight its way back all over again. Clark eventually returned and forced overtime with another clutch three, proving once again that she was the best player on the floor. But even in overtime, Indiana failed to put the ball consistently in her hands. Kelsey Mitchell started forcing isolation shots, the offense became chaotic, and there was no clear late-game structure. That's a coaching problem more than a player problem. In big moments, teams need clarity on who controls possessions, and Indiana looked completely disorganized. Then came the final mistake. In the closing seconds of overtime, with Indiana needing one basket to win, Caitlin Clark was standing out of bounds, inbounding the ball instead of taking the shot herself. Think about that. The hottest shooter in the building, the player who had just carried your team back into the game, was used as the inbound passer, while someone else became the scoring option. That wasn't an accident. That was a designed coaching decision, and fans had every right to be furious about it. After the game, Clark admitted the team has been letting missed shots affect their defense all season long. And honestly, she's right. The Fever have talent. They can score with anybody in the league. But defensively, they are nowhere near championship level right now. The lack of rim protection, poor rebounding, inconsistent rotations, and questionable late-game decisions are wasting performances from one of the best young stars basketball has ever seen. What makes this even crazier is that for the game, Caitlin Clark was honored for becoming the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 points, 250 assists, and 250 rebounds, breaking a record previously held by Diana Taurasi. Then she went out and dropped 32 points and 7 threes in the same night. This is not a player struggling to figure things out. This is a superstar already operating at an MVP level while the organization around her struggles to keep up. The path forward for Indiana starts with getting Aaliyah Boston healthy, because the defense looks completely different when she's on the floor. Lexi Hull also continues developing into an important two-way player who can take defensive pressure off Clark on the perimeter. But none of that fixes the biggest issue. The Fever still desperately need another real rim protector behind Boston if they want to compete for a championship. As for Stephanie White, this is becoming a difficult conversation. There are moments where Indiana looks like a dangerous team under her system, but pulling Clark during her hottest stretch, failing to run the offense through her in overtime, and designing a final play where she inbounded instead of shooting are decisions that directly cost Indiana this game. Caitlin Clark's 32-point masterpiece should have been remembered as one of the best performances of the season. Instead, it became another example of a superstar doing everything possible, while the team around her falls apart at the worst moments. Indiana has too much talent to keep losing games like this, but until the front office fixes the roster and the coaching staff improves late-game management, performances like this are going to keep getting wasted. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more WNBA coverage and basketball breakdowns. Let me know in the comments what you think Indiana Fever needs to change the most, and I'll see you in the next one.